take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Friday, March 13th, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Oh, yeah, we made it to the weekend, folks. It's been a long old week, and it's just getting busier and busier next week. I'll be in Eugene, Oregon tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday for the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference, and as it turns out, I am a moderator on the media panel for the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. I'll be moderating the panel that consists of Noel Crombie from the Oregonian and Doug McVeigh from Drug Policy Facts. We'll be taking questions and answers as well. So we bring as much of that to you as we can. Not sure how much I'll be able to record or stream live, but as much as we can, we will bring it to you. Also, next week, Tuesday, I will be featured in a debate at Texas Christian University, sponsored by the drug and alcohol folks there. It's a marijuana legalization debate entitled The Blunt Truth. I'll be going up against Ben Court, a recovering marijuana addict and alcoholic from Project SAM. He's actually on the board of Project SAM, so it should be an interesting discussion. I'll be there Tuesday and then staying in Texas Wednesday and Thursday for some shows from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so check up on that. Follow my Twitter feed at Radical Russ if you want the up-to-the-minute locations of where we'll be and all the social events that we'll be enjoying as well. Also, on next Friday, I'll be traveling back from Texas, so we won't have a live show next Friday or next Tuesday. Tuesday, the debate, and Friday, coming back from it. Speaking of live shows, tonight we have got the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour coming up from 8 to 10 p.m. And in a special, we are going to do Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink live tonight at 10 o'clock. We had some technical issues here at the studio while I was out at the OLCC listening session. So we'll give Big Daddy another chance to record a good second episode of season 4 live. So check that out tonight. We're doing 3 hours live in a row. This will be the place to hang out and share a bowl. All right, coming up on today's show, great information for the cannabis community, all from the Oregon Liquor Control Commission's last listening session. They went all across the state to 11 different communities, ending up in the district in Portland, Oregon that had the highest support statewide for marijuana legalization. 89.9% of the people in the district voted for Measure 91. The meeting was attended by probably 250 people. We've got some video, including my question to the OLCC. We've got Representative Earl Blumenauer, my congressman, addressing the meeting, and Rob Patridge, the commissioner of the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, discussing the concept of co-location of recreational and medical marijuana facilities and some of the hurdles that'll have to be cleared in order for that to happen, even in a limited way. Speaking of the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, in our drug war data mining today, my question for OLCC Commissioner had to do with minor sting operations, which he claims 19% of the time a minor can get a drink in Oregon at a licensed establishment. I asked him, how do those licenses break down for compliance? Stores versus restaurants and taverns? He had no idea, so I went and looked it up for him. So coming up in drug war data mining, the stats for the city of Portland on minor sting operations in liquor control. Also, we'll have Behind the Headlines, where schools across the country are teaching about the emerging marijuana laws. All of that comes right after the 420 radio news, and that's next, right after this commercial break.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio, your ticket to the Boston Freedom Rally. Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers.
Funky Roller Ring.
Oh, yeah.
What's happening, Groovy Cats? This is your Funk Master of Ceremonies, Big Daddy, and I want you to join me every Thursday night at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, right here at the Funky Roller Ring.
Oh, yeah.
Your home of soul, funk, and disco, baby.
Funky-licious.
There's always a party at the Funky Roller Ring.
This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay, read the Weed Blog today. It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is your 420 Radio News for Friday, March 13th, 2015. Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine on Friday certified Responsible Ohio's petition summary language for a constitutional amendment legalizing marijuana use for people with debilitating medical conditions and adults over age 21. DeWine does not pass judgment on the merit of the amendment, only whether the summary that will appear on petitions accurately describes the proposed ballot issue. The Attorney General's office is the first stop for groups proposing a statewide ballot issue. Once certified by the Attorney General, the Ohio Ballot Board, a bipartisan panel headed by Secretary of State John Husted, decides whether the proposal is one or multiple issues. From there, groups must then collect more than 305,591 valid signatures of Ohio voters, meeting certain thresholds in 44 of Ohio's 88 counties to qualify for the ballot. The deadline to qualify for the November ballot is July 1st, according to the state law. A Denver man accused of killing his wife after eating marijuana-infused candy he bought at a legal pot shop has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder. Richard Kirk, age 48, entered his plea during a brief court appearance Friday as members of his family watched. The shooting stoked concerns about the effects of marijuana snacks, which have become popular since the state legalized recreational pot shops. Colorado lawmakers last year tightened regulations on edible marijuana, responding to the Kirk case and the death of a college student who jumped from a hotel balcony after eating a potent marijuana cookie. The couple's marital and financial problems were escalating, and Christine Kirk was covered by a $340,000 life insurance policy, Denver detectives have said. She had recently told friends she had grown afraid of her husband because they had been fighting so much. Richard Kirk is scheduled to go on trial October 26th. The D.C. Cannabis Campaign is hosting 2 seed exchanges this month since the sale of marijuana is still illegal. Judging by the RSVPs for the event, there's high demand. By Friday, more than 340 people had signed up for the 2 events being held March 26th at the Northwest D.C. Absinthe Bar Libertine and March 28th at the campaign's headquarters. Adam Eidinger, chairman of the campaign that got the legalization issue on the November ballot, said his group will facilitate the exchange of seeds but will not be giving away any. He estimates that so far there's a 30-to-1 ratio of people who have signed up for the event and are looking for seeds compared to those who are giving them away. Legality issues of purchasing marijuana aside, it's difficult to find seeds to start a harvest because, quote, good marijuana doesn't have seeds, end quote, Mr. Eidinger said. A North Carolina lawmaker has spearheaded a bill that would legalize medical marijuana in the state. State Representative Kelly Alexander, a Democrat, has attempted to pass such legislation 3 times before, but said he's more confident than ever that the bill could pass this time around. A rally in support of the bill is expected to take place next week outside the State House in Raleigh. If the legislature approves the bill and Governor McCrory signs it, North Carolina would become the first southeastern state to legalize marijuana. 14 state representatives have co-sponsored the legislation, all of them Democrats. Alexander said that allowing medical marijuana to be produced and sold under strict state regulations could rake in as much as $100 million in tax revenue. Recent polling showed that some 70% of North Carolinians supported doctors being able to prescribe medical marijuana for certain conditions. Rules to implement Florida's limited medical marijuana law, already mired in bureaucratic red tape, became further entangled this week by a new legal challenge. A Jacksonville attorney representing a 4-year-old girl with an inoperable brain tumor argued in a filing with the State Division of Administrative Hearings that the proposed regulations for a cannabis strain known as Charlotte's Web are inadequate to help suffering patients. The proposed rule is invalid, Christensen wrote, because it, quote, fails to provide any assurances that there will be reasonable access to this medicine, leaving this critical delegated authority up to a group of 5 nursery owners who have absolutely no experience growing cannabis, let alone a medicine, end quote. The Charlotte's Web legislation was, quote, well-intentioned, end quote, said Ben Pallara, executive director of Florida for Care, quote, but the continuing issues with its implementation should give legislators good reason to start from scratch and pass a law that actually works and one that will help a broader group of sick and suffering Floridians, end quote. This has been your 420 Radio News for Friday, March 13th, 2015. I'm Russ Belville.
420 Radio, freeing your mind 24 hours a day.
With over 1 billion people in the world, chances are there's somebody out there just like you. There are software engineers, pastry chefs, artists, and people with medical conditions. And what do many of these people have in common? They use marijuana. It's expected that marijuana will be legalized in California. And when that happens, what will be the biggest concern? Safety. That's where we come in. High Def Transit is a discreet shuttle service that also serves as a mobile vapor room. Members can medicate on board, while our certified drivers get you to your destination safely, so you can enjoy the ride. So hop in, make friends, and ride safe. High Def Transit.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks are far less than those posed by legal drugs. Get your tickets now for the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference March 15th and 16th at the Hilton in Eugene, Oregon, powered by MarijuanaPolitics.com. Former presidential candidate and 2-term New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson will deliver the keynote address. Harborside Health Center's Steve D'Angelo will present at the pre-conference VIP reception. You'll also hear from State Senator Floyd Przansky, New Approach Oregon's Anthony Johnson, Oregon marijuana attorneys Paul Loney and Leland Berger, and Oregon Liquor Control Commission's Director of Marijuana Programs, Tom Burns. Get your tickets at early bird pricing by acting now. Learn more at the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference at ommbc.com. This conference will provide you with a head start for success in the expanding Oregon marijuana industry. Get your tickets today at ommbc.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Time for us to go behind the headlines. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about higher education. That's right, higher education. And this is a story that comes by way of the Columbus Dispatch entitled Legalized Pot Gets Ohio State Class of Its Own. This is a class being taught by Professor Douglas Berman, and he's heard the jokes, but the main joke that's used is that the class is called Weed 101. But he complains that it's a whole lot more than that. The technical or the accurate name for the course is Marijuana Law, Policy, and Reform. And he brings us up as a neutral point of view on the claims on both sides of the marijuana legalization debate. Berman said, quote, "This is a serious area that is a matter of significant public policy. If we leave it to the snickers and the ha-has and the people who think it's a joke, you ensure that it's not going to be regulated and reformed in a sensible way." The class is only offered on Fridays, and the reason being to deter any students who just might take it on a lark. But it's among a few classes all across this country that are now being offered exploring the federal and state laws surrounding marijuana. Whereas this might have been a joke even 5 years ago, the rapidly evolving legal landscape surrounding marijuana has led this to become an issue that's very, very teachable and a lot of information to study for students. In Tennessee at Vanderbilt University, there's a similar class on marijuana law, policy, and reform. And at the University of Denver in Colorado, they have a class that's entitled Representing the Marijuana Client. And part of that class is a field trip to a dispensary to see how marijuana is grown and sold. Even lawyers who are against marijuana legalization say that this is a phenomenon that is bound to continue. John Allison, who's a lawyer for the Drug Free Action Alliance, they're the leading group opposing Responsible Ohio right now. He says, quote, "Whether one agrees with the premise or not, it is an emerging area of the law in the country. There are all kinds of clients in the world, and they all deserve good lawyers," end quote. Berman's class focuses on banking, taxation, criminal justice, and politics, and parallels a lot of this with alcohol prohibition and how that led to states having to craft certain exceptions to federal laws. The folks that are taking this class, a 25-year-old from Lima, Ohio, it is Lima. Is it Lima? Lima? I'm not sure. Stephen Swick, he plans to work in business law, says that this could be a very lucrative position for him to be in. Quote, "Having some knowledge could be useful," end quote. So the class has been running since 2013 after the election of 2012, making marijuana legal in Colorado and Washington state. And in addition to the federal and state interplay of conflicting laws, there's now also the question of the Native American tribes that have been given the go-ahead to move forward with their own legalization. Some of these tribes have land in legal states. Some of these have land in medical states. Some of them have land in prohibition states. And sometimes a tribe's land can overlap states and end up being in one state where it's legal and partially in another state where it's not. So there are so many conflicting laws and ways that these laws interact with one another that are ripe for study at this new Ohio State class. And the interesting part of this class for the students is that unlike other law classes where you're studying textbooks and laws that have been passed for years or even decades, this is a constantly changing field. Berman says he's constantly having to revise the class based on the latest iterations of marijuana law across the country. He says, quote, "Almost every morning I get up and check my Google News feed, and it's like, oh, there's another story I ought to be talking about. Things are moving so quickly, there's no way I could teach everything." And I would encourage students anywhere in the country who are listening to this podcast to petition your deans and, in public policy, in business law, in criminal justice for certain, and ask them to take a look at the marijuana issue and craft some courses around the marijuana issue. Our institutes of higher education should be equipping our graduates for the future, and the future is marijuana. It's coming to your state in one form or another, either through legalization or medical marijuana, or the fact that some state near you is going to pass those things, and that is going to have an effect on your state as well. The more that gets critical study in our institutes of higher learning, and if we can get that federal law passed to move marijuana down to Schedule 2, all the better.
Unbelievable.
It's true, it is unbelievable. Hell, just 5 years ago, if you'd have bet me that Ohio would be looking at a chance at legalizing marijuana before California, I never would have taken that bet. Hey, it's 420 in Denver, Colorado. Let's join them if you can. And if you can't, let's keep working until you can.
420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz.
Funky Roller Ring.
This is Big Daddy, and I want you to join me every Thursday night for some good old soul, funk, and disco at the Funky Roller Ring on 420 Radio. You dig?
Are you in the market for portable vaporizers now? Get online to vapes.buzz, the quick and easy link to portablevaporizers.now.com. Vapes.buzz has everything you are looking for, including vape pens, herbal vaporizers, e-juice, parts, accessories, and more. Visit vapes.buzz and use promo code 420radio to get 10% off your online purchase, or just give them a call at 866-264-2415. Vapes.buzz. Get vaping, baby! Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
Welcome back, everyone. For today's Drug War Data Mine, I'm taking you to the Oregon Liquor Control Commission's final public hearing, listening session, as it were, on marijuana legalization. Chairman Rob Patridge made the point that in Oregon, 19% of minor sting decoy operations at liquor establishments led to them selling to minors, and that's why we ought to have licenses for pot sales. Here's my question on that.
Chair Patridge, Commissioners, thanks for having this meeting. My name is Russ, Belville, the Executive Director of Oregon Normal, and I was seeking some clarification from you. You mentioned 19% as the figure for underage serving. How much is that related to liquor stores, bars, restaurants? Because when it comes to Colorado, in Larimer County, they did a sting to try to get underage service at a medical marijuana dispensary or at a pot shop, and they got exactly 0. So since we are so strong in checking for IDs, is that really a fair comparison with alcohol and marijuana?
I don't know whether it's a fair comparison or not. I'm just merely sharing information with you that people make mistakes, that we have people that we have them install card readers that check the ID electronically, and they fail to use those, even though they train staff to do other things. So mistakes happen. I'm not trying to draw a direct corollary. I can't give you immediately right now. We're just trying to share the same information we're trying to share based upon our regulatory experience that we have. As we've been around the state, we've heard from people regulated just like you do alcohol. One of the things we have an alcohol server permits, that's why we brought it up, and that's why we're continuing to have the discussion with Oregonians about this.
Thank you very much. And just to echo what the last speaker said, I think Oregon growers and processors, retail stores ought to be subject to the same exact limits McMinimans is subject to for beer. Thank you.
All right, so that's at the Oregon Liquor Control Commission hearing, or it technically was a listening session. They went to 11 different places throughout the state asking people's opinion on various aspects of the marijuana law, and that was in response to should there be a server's license for marijuana vendors, bud tenders as it were, like there is a server's license for liquor dispensers. You know, if you're a bartender, you have to have a server's license. And his complaint was that about 19% of the statewide minor decoy operations, minors were successful in getting a hold of alcohol. I was surprised when I questioned him as to whether or not that was more prevalent at on-site or off-site places, that he did not know that data. And to me, that makes a huge difference, because with marijuana, we're not talking about on-site consumption and on-site servers. We're not talking about a bud tender who's going to be loading you a bowl and then you're going to be smoking it, you know, similar to how a tavern or a restaurant would serve you a glass of liquor, alcohol, beer, wine, whatever, and then you'd be drinking it on site. So I went to the stats today. I went to the Oregon Liquor Control Commission's website, and I downloaded all of their minor sting operation reports that included a location in the city of Portland. There were 106 of them, and I put them into this spreadsheet here. And as you can see, we've got the date and what type of location it was, a store, a tavern, a restaurant, and yes or no, whether it was compliant by those particular dates. We put those into a pivot table here in Excel, and it found some very interesting information. When it came to the restaurants, they had 12 places where they weren't compliant. A no means not compliant, means that they sold to minors. And a yes means they were compliant. They did not sell to minors. And in this, we're getting a grand total out of 25 sting operations. Almost half of them at the restaurant level were selling to minors. We got the percentages just a little further down this screen. If I can scroll that just one more click, there we go. So the restaurants, 48% of the time were selling to minors. The taverns, 28% of the time were selling to minors. The stores, which would include 7-Elevens, Plaid Pantries, that's a convenience store around here, kind of, you know, like your, I don't know what store you've got in your local neighborhood, but also include liquor stores and grocery stores where you can buy beer and wine. Only 11% of the time was a minor successful at buying at a store. So to me, this bodes well for what we're talking about in the marijuana industry, in that we won't have on-site consumption, especially like a restaurant where it seems kids are very, very able to get served. And if we consider the restaurants and the taverns together, those would both be on-site. And then, of course, the stores would be off-site. It breaks down like so. For on-site sales, either a restaurant or a tavern or a little bar in a hotel or whatever it might be where you can actually drink the alcohol on site, 38% of the time a minor was able to get some alcohol, compared to the 11% of the time at a store where you have to take the alcohol off site were they able to get a hold of alcohol. And remember, Commissioner Patridge says that 19% is the rate statewide. So in the city of Portland, our off-site liquor sales have a lower percentage of selling to minors than the statewide average. I believe in Portland, marijuana vendors will do far better than that. I wouldn't be surprised if it stays zero. 420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you.
NORML stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com. Reforming America's marijuana prohibition laws takes education, lobbying, and voting. From Washington, D.C. to your state capital to your city hall, marijuana law reform involves all levels of civic life. Learn how you can make your impact with elected officials as we take a look at our government at work.
Representative Earl Blumenauer addressing the OLCC listening session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciated the kind introduction. Having the commission here, and as you pointed out, this is a volunteer assignment, and I don't know that people understood what they were getting into. We really appreciate your service, the time and energy you expended to try and make sure that we get it right. And I appreciate you responding to a request that I made, that we have at least one hearing here in Portland, where we have the highest percentage approval in the state. People care about it here, and people have strong feelings. They want to make sure that this is done right, and we appreciate the work that you have done to try and bring those things into alignment. Truth is, I have been working on this for a very long time, before everybody here but Larry was born. And it has been fascinating to watch the evolution of the issue. I was pleased to see Oregon with Measure 91, which I think was the best drafted initiative that we've seen. Lots of time and energy went into that, and it's done right. There was, I thought, a very constructive campaign around the state. I was pleased to have played a small role in that, but it helped raise the public awareness. And now we're sort of in an interesting spot, because this is an issue that is really taking hold nationally. We have now 4 states and the District of Columbia that have approved adult use, something that a lot of people are not aware of. 213 million Americans now live in a jurisdiction where some form of use of marijuana is legal. 213. 34 states and the district, and even some states where it's not yet legal. Florida, voters in Florida voted 57% for medical marijuana this last fall, but because of the way they established their constitutional amendments, it required a 60% vote. But marijuana, I pointed out to my friends from Florida, got more votes than any politician in Florida. And we're watching attitudes evolve. We're learning from what has happened. In Congress last year, we had 17 pieces of legislation that were introduced. Virtually all were bipartisan. We had 6 successful votes on the floor of the House of Representatives, bipartisan votes that were affirmative, moving some aspect forward, like trying to dial down federal interference or being able to promote use of industrial hemp. This week was very significant because there was the first piece of legislation ever introduced in the United States Senate. And it was bipartisan, and it contained a number of provisions that I've worked on and advanced in the House. And it was nice to see that there. I was here and I wanted to express my deep appreciation for the very thoughtful way the Commission and staff have approached this is because what we do in Oregon is going to have a profound effect on the nature of this discussion nationally. In Washington and Colorado, they're sort of thrown into it with kind of mixed results, especially in Washington. What's happening here is there's an opportunity for not only the Commission to be able to have the benefit of the comments of people around the state, and it's already over 3,000 that I understand. You folks have been working hard, and you folks have been working hard, looking maybe at 3,500 comments before we're done. Also being able to key off that experience in the other states, what worked and what didn't. And we have time before this all goes live in the summer of 2016. There's a legislative session, there's a mini legislative session, there's time to get it right. And I guess that's my message to you and to the Commission is I appreciate your taking the time to get it right, because it's not only keeping faith with the voters here in Oregon, but it also is going to have a profound effect on how this is handled nationally. We'll be working hard for Congress to send a little, and for the federal government to send some clearer signals, because there's this sort of this ambiguity that we're operating under. And even though the President has said he has bigger fish to fry and, you know, kind of letting it run its course, there are still some people who are frying those fish. There are still some hiccups along the way. And in fairness, our friends in the federal government are in a difficult situation because of the law that simply needs to be changed. We'll be working to try and change and clarify the law, take care of some of the more stupid things, like forcing legitimate marijuana businesses to be conducted on an all-cash basis. Who in their right mind thinks that's a good idea? If you care about theft or money laundering or tax evasion, robbery, attempted to say theft, it's wrong. And it's an unnecessary complication. We're working hard to change the law so that legal marijuana businesses are given tax equity. Know that because a drug dealer in the 70s tried to expense his yacht, Congress sprung into action, and the way they wrote that prohibition, it unfortunately extended to legal marijuana enterprises. And we're working to change that. I was pleased when I had my first press conference on the bill. I was joined by Grover Norquist, who doesn't necessarily join me on legislation, but he understands and was very articulate that that's wrong. So I am confident that we will make progress on things like this that are mechanical. We'll work for clarification. We will support in any way that we can. And again, please accept my deep appreciation for all this hard work, this care and consideration. And we look forward to being your partner to get this across the finish line, to make it a success, keeping faith with the voters and the promise of what this measure has to offer. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's my Congressman, Representative Earl Blumenauer, champion of marijuana legalization and champion of bicycling. That's his thing, you know. And so in tribute, I actually rode my bike with all my cameras and tripods strapped up on around me and in my basket and all that. I'm sure he'd be proud. Coming up next, after the anti-drugs public service announcement of the day, OLCC Commissioner Rob Patridge, the chair of the commission, addresses the idea of medical and recreational co-locating in the same shop.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio, turning red states and blue states green. At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio. In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day.
Hey, Lindsay? I wish you didn't smoke weed. You're not the same when you smoke, and I miss my friend. I'll be outside.
This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org. Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Can medical marijuana and recreational marijuana be in the same location?
Because that's certainly what's being talked about in a lot of corners of the Capitol. And I'm trying to be, obviously things are told to me in confidence as well, but I'm trying to be fully transparent about what's going on at the Capitol. There's certainly a lot of conversation related to this issue. And whether we should have a license and be able to have medical marijuana and recreational marijuana sold at the same location as long as it's all trapped. And I think that there's a strong interest in that, frankly, in the Capitol. So,
Gene?
Yes.
Gene, I'm a repeat offender here.
Okay. Now you remember that we're not supposed to repeat talkers.
A clarifying question. Rob, if I'm growing with a 91 license, why shouldn't I be able to take care of patients as well? And if I'm taking care of patients as well and complying with the Medical Marijuana Act, why couldn't I distribute to a co-licensed dispensary?
Why shouldn't you be able to have both? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm asking if I'm cultivating, if I have a 91 license and I'm cultivating and I want to also care for patients, which is what growers under the medical marijuana program do. They cultivate for patients. And I'm complying with the Medical Marijuana Act with those limits and everything, and I'm complying with 91, why shouldn't I be able to distribute to a co-licensed retail outlet? That's the part that's confusing to me.
Well, what we're saying is we don't believe that they can be co-located at the same location to have unregulated grows, which is what it is. It's unregulated grows except for cart stacking, Except for cart stacking, there's no regulation about the amount, what's being tracked in the system. We feel like it has to be tracked in the system. That's what we were advised by council. That's what I was asking the Senator Buddy Bush. I don't want to spend a lot of time here because I don't
let's take a couple more and then go from there.
Can you clarify, you said not co-located for retail, but also you're not going to allow co-location for growers or production facilities. So if I have a production facility, I would not be allowed to run product for the recreational market and run medical product.
Correct.
Unless you did the seed to sale for the entire thing.
Unless you did the seed to sale for the entire system, we would not co-locate you.
Okay. Okay, so for example, I'm an extraction company, and I have patients I've been serving for a long time creating extractions for them. If I wanted to also work in the recreational market, I would have to have 2 different facilities in order to do that under the recommendations you've given to the legislative.
Correct.
Okay. I get it.
If your medical growers opted into a medical, that's why I left it open. If your medical growers opted into a seed-to-sale tracking kind of system, then you could do both at one facility.
But they would all have to be, and I couldn't have other patients that maybe I don't grow for, but they say, hey, I can't produce this extract, can I bring you my product and produce that extract strictly on the medical side? And I'm not even going to be giving it to a dispensary, I give it back to them. So this is kind of some of the, how do we clarify these 2 fields, and how do we keep track? Because I know there are a lot of people that are trying to plan for businesses, but not wanting to also mean that their patients that they've been serving for a long time are suddenly left out in the cold if they're going to actually use this knowledge that they've created to also now operate a legal recreational business.
We understand.
Okay.
I've been very actively involved in the medical community for a long time. And the problem with going seed to sale is you're going to take all of these medical patients, and the majority are on a fixed income right now. They're not going to be able to afford the cost for their medicine if you do take it through seed to sale. And that's going to be the biggest problem with it. And that's the problem that I hear in the community right now with all of these people. And it's not fair to those people that depend on that. You know, you're looking at it to generate tax revenue and to make money for the community, but you're not looking at the people that it really does help. And that's a big issue in our community.
We're not saying that tax medical side of things if they were to come under a seed-to-sale tracking system.
So if it does, there's no way to avoid that the price is going to increase. There is no way to avoid that. You are going to tax it. Growers are still going to get taxed at that. It's going to get taxed, maybe not at the same level, but it is going to get taxed. And right now, I have patients right now, you know, I give away so much medicine for free every month to people that get screwed by their growers, that can't afford to go out and buy medicine. I had a guy approach me off of Craigslist recently, told me he is in desperate need. He's a veteran and he was injured and he can't afford his medicine. Could I help him out? He promises someday he'll return the favor. Now, how do you take someone like that who right now can't even afford to get his meds right now, and you want to take and increase the prices so that the state can make their tax money, which I agree on the recreational side, but you need to look at the medical side a lot more than you people are, because right now you're going to affect a lot of people that really need it, not recreationally, but need it medically.
Thank you. Clarification here, you guys, that what he's talking about is a recommendation about recreational marijuana, and that if it were to blend with medical marijuana, that's what they would ask for. It's not legislated yet, and you can talk to your legislator, Earl, if you're here. No, what am I saying? State legislator. You can talk to your state legislator, but also remember that they're not affecting the medical marijuana.
Just realize the medical marijuana system is in place as it currently is.
They are not asking
all
to
I was
get
giving
that.
you was an option potentially to have more accessibility to medical patients through OLCC licensing.
Okay, so we're going to go to the next question now, you
Excuse me
guys.
for 1 second. Can I say one
I'm
more
sorry.
thing?
Really, it's not fair to the other people who haven't had a chance to talk.
But it's a comment that he just made that needs to be addressed. He said that medical marijuana isn't being affected. Yes, it is, because all the dispensaries right now are medical only. Once you change the laws, they're not going to be medical only. So yes, you are affecting the medical community, so you can't make that statement.
Well, I guess let's move to the next question. So we're going to go to the next question now, you guys. And I get, you guys, we could cover this one all night, and there are so many questions. We're going to have an open mic session soon, and you are welcome to bring this issue back, and I expect you will. because we know it's a tough one. So the next one is, should workers at marijuana-related businesses be licensed as they are for alcohol businesses? Should workers, so green, yes, they should be licensed as they are for alcohol businesses, or red? I see a lot of red over here, more greens here, more reds and yellows and some greens, more mixed here. So Nathan, grab one of the folks, how about right there? A couple, she says no, she doesn't want to. This pajama does. So yes, go ahead.
Can you repeat the question again?
Okay, so should workers at marijuana-related businesses be licensed as they are for alcohol businesses? And this is recreational retail, not, so, and it's about education, you know, like a food handler's permit kind of thing. Go ahead.
I would really enjoy to have somebody that's educated to serve me as a bartender, or knows the product and knows what they're serving and is educated.
Okay.
And I think it will help the community to be educated as well, because as a bartender educating a consumer using a product, using medicine, recreational marijuana, they will be able to explain to the community what, you know, how they've been educated, what the medicine can do in recreation, instead of having someone that doesn't know what they're doing.
So we've heard a lot about education, and what you're talking about is the bartender can then, if he's or she is educated, can pass that education on.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so other perceptions. Go ahead, Red.
I don't think the intent of the OLCC in this, with this question, is to provide the type of information that consumers want. And I think if it's a retail establishment, it's not a bar, they're not serving, they are simply dispensing a product like the OLCC liquor stores do. So given that, there should not be a requirement. There should be a need for any employer to make sure that their employees are educated about the product that they are dispensing, but as they are not allowed to serve. And I've heard no mention of anything that will give them or any other entity the right to actually serve the product, then there should be no license.
So the education should be the responsibility of the shop owner?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and that's another perspective we've heard. So we've got a yellow way in the back.
Right here.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Nathan. I'm sorry, she was ready.
This will be very short. I just wanted to clarify that licensure is not about making sure that bartenders are educated about the products. My understanding of licensure is about ID checking and making sure that the medicine or the product is going to people who have a legal right to have it. If I go to my local brew pub and their servers really know a lot about local Willamette Valley hops, that's not because the OLCC taught them that. It's because the business owner taught them that. So let's just be clear when we're talking about
So let's take this one, and then I know you have that follow-up question. Go ahead.
A quick comment is that I believe it only is affecting the retail side. The growing side, the laboratory side, I do believe needs to be regulated in their employees and education at the highest degree.
Okay. All right. So Rob, you have a follow-up question.
So the lady who stood up over here is correct related to ID and knowing if somebody's intoxicated, because we don't want people serving intoxicated people. Those are the kinds of things we educate with related to alcohol. So I don't want to pretend otherwise. But what I do want to share with you, and we've shared this with every audience just about that we've been in front of, to see if it changes people's opinion. So today, OLCC has minor decoy operations around the state. We test about 15% of our licensees around the state. 19%, almost 20% of the people get served who are under the age of 21, even though they presented ID, if asked, which is a proper ID, it was under the age of 21. That has the red symbol on it. So does that change anybody's opinion related to whether people should be trained about ID checking and realizing people signs of physical intoxication. So can we have a show of, with that in mind, how many people...
Any changes?
Related to those particular issues. And I think the other thing that people also try to educate people about is we have people who try and go from location to location to location. With a license, we have the ability to stop them from going on to the next employer or the next business. So those are the reasons why we have some of those things in effect. So I'm just interested to see.
So raise your hand, just raise yours if that changes your mind. Is it a clarifying question?
Yeah, it's clarifying.
Okay.
Now, OLCC also does little sting things where they take and, go out and have people buy alcohol.
That's what you're saying.
We do.
Okay, I thought you just said it was the marijuana.
No, it's alcohol.
This is alcohol.
We don't have any control of the marijuana on the dispensary side. Yeah.
So what he's saying...
In alcohol, we test, we run minor decoy operations against 15% of our licensees. 19% of those people serve to people under the age of 21.
So the question is, knowing that people do, either out of ignorance or carelessness, serve to folks underage, should there be license? Before you do that, let's just get, he wants an answer to his question.
I just want to see
so he wants to know whether
now you think that they should have licenses, red, no, yellow, maybe.
Okay. Okay, so this gentleman, other folks haven't spoken yet. Go ahead.
So with the licensing regulated for the retailers, is that going to be more like a background check and limiting who can and can't work there? Because there's a lot of people in this community that have been arrested or have issues in the past because it is illegal. So is that going to stop a lot of people from working in that industry that was banned from before?
So good question. So the question is around whether folks who have a history with a marijuana crime at that point.
And what I would tell you is in all licenses, I would tell you that in all licenses that we, not just this one, but any of the licenses, the 4 that are currently approved, it's contemplated that we're going to do some kind of background check. But I certainly feel like, and we have gotten some clear direction related to the fact that, individuals who may or may not have been involved in this business, but may have a criminal history, we're certainly trying to figure out how we thread that needle. People refer to those people as the marijuana pioneers in some cases.
So someone who hasn't spoken.
Right here.
Okay.
If the concern is identification verification, why would it be any different from an OLCC card that a bar would have? Why would the training be any different than just the recognizing the differences in an identification? When you're trying to keep people from working in an industry, that's like firing a bartender and saying they can't go work at a bar down the road. I don't understand that.
Bartenders at OLCC, if they violate the rules and serve to somebody the age of 21, they lose their ability to serve alcohol because they have to, because the bar they have to be properly licensed. That's what we're talking about. Is the same type of thing in marijuana, whether you should or shouldn't have that. So that's what we're dealing with. Is people have to be diligent if we're trying to protect people under the age of 21.
There you have the Oregon Liquor Control Commission head. He's the chairman, Rob Patridge, trying to answer some questions from the cannabis community about the co-location of marijuana recreationally and medically. It's the thorniest issue to have to untangle out here in the western states. So those of you out there in the Midwest and the South who don't have medical marijuana, who knows? You might be better off just waiting to go straight to recreational and avoid all these problems. We'll talk more about that in hour 2. Coming up, Toker Talk Radio. We'll take your calls at 971-533-7111. Should recreational and medical be merged? If there is recreational, why should there remain a medical marijuana program, if at all? We'll talk about that, get your opinions, and I'll give you mine when we come back. That's all the time we got for hour 1. Thanks for joining us. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.